Yo, so I'm back again today, YouTube. Today we are doing a little fishing on a lake here close to home called Lake Greenwood. Post frontal conditions. It's been cold, y'all. We got some snow over the weekend and it's been in the low 20s at night. Pick up a sandwich and we're gonna get out there and catch some doggone bass. All right, we're pulling up to the ramp here. My favorite place, man. There's a lot of history here. The thing that's special about Greenwood is this is a place where I caught the biggest limit of bass that I ever caught in a club tournament. I guess it's been 5 years ago or so now. Dropped 27 on them, and believe it or not, 27 is actually not that big for Greenwood, but for B.lat, that's a heck of a day. 27, it's been plenty 30-pound bags caught here. 29, 30, 32, you know, that happens pretty routinely here. But me and my cousin James, we dropped, it was in the spring, like April, we dropped 27 on them, on the old school floating worm. We caught a pair of 7-pounders on a floating worm, with our lake floating worm, and we caught the rest sight fishing. Cool day. Alright, so here we are at our first little stop. First thing I noticed right off the bat is that the water is a lot more stained than what I really expected, which is good, because that's going to push those fish a lot shallower. When the water's more stained like it is right now, the fish get shallower because that's where light is. And we'll get out here and see how many fish we can catch today. It should be a good day. Exactly what he did. So what there's just a little creek turn that comes in on this point here, and there's some big boulders out there. A lot of people talk about traps. When you think about rattle traps, all you think about is grass, but candy crawl, they love to fish rattle traps around rocks. Rocks are really good. They deflect off those rocks really good. That bait will shimmy off those rocks. That's what happened. First cast up there on those boulders, that bass came up there and got it. Let's get out there and see if we can catch another one. That's a good little bass right there. If you look at the bank here, you can see exactly why I stopped on this particular bank. It's got a bunch of big boulders. If you see those big boulders on the bank, that's a good indication that you got the same type of structure down in the water. So we're gonna fish down here. I'll fish it kind of off first, and then after I've fished it, you know, off and fish in that 5-6 foot range, then I'll get up close and fish it really tight with the Echo 175. Now that we're getting up here to some isolated structure, I'm going to switch to my square bill crankbait. Switch to a little square bill isolated structure, the same color, raven red. Fish this isolated cover just to keep the bait strike zone a little bit longer. Good one right there, boy. Making that same cast over and over. Look at that little chunky guy. He's chunky as he can be. Ooh. That guy is chunky. You can see. There again, making those repetitive casts over and over to the same spot, to those rocks. Different angle. Look at that, that's a good one. That's a chunky little 3-pound bass right there. It's making that same cast over and over and over and over. And every once in a while you hit that right sweet spot. That's one of the things that's real important when you're fishing rock or fishing grass or anything. You make that same cast repetitively over and over and over, and you hit the right angle, and that's when you get the bite. Chunky little guy right there. Today I'm going to show you guys a little bit what I'm fishing. The lake's down to basically winter pool now, so there's a lot of exposed flats, a lot of exposed banking. I can tell exactly what banks are creek turn banks, what's sand banks, or mud flats, what banks has pebble rock, boulders and so forth. That's really key in when you're trying to fish a rattle trap this time of the year, because you want to find those places that has that little bit of inconsistency on the bank, pebble rock, boulders, stuff like that. Chances are, if you can see it on the bank, it's going to be the same structure down in the water. And I'm using 2 different color traps here, 2 different sizes. This is a 3/4 that I'm using right here in a crawl pattern, and I'm also I used a candy crawl. I actually broke off my candy crawl. I only brought 1 candy crawl today, and I'm using red crawfish in a 1/2 ounce. I'm using a knocking trap, and this is just the original rattle trap right here. But those are the 2 baits I'm using. I really like fishing a rattle bait around rock because it deflects totally different than a crankbait. Typically we use a crankbait when we're fishing around rock and places like that on sand flats, but the way that a rattle trap deflects off of rock is like none other. Of course, the bait sinks, so you can keep contact with the bottom so much better. So I can really slow down my retrieve. If I was using a crankbait, if I slow down, if I stop the bait wants to back up off of the rocks. But when I'm using a rattle trap, I can wind it fast and kill it. I can pull it up off the rock. I can be really erratic with it, or I can be really subtle with it as well and stay in contact with the bottom. That's really, really important this time of year, is staying in contact with the bottom. So we'll go around here and we'll look for some of those banks, creek turns. We're right after a cold front right now. It's been 19, 20 degrees at night, and the fish most likely are going to be on the turns, the deeper places coming out of these little pockets and coves. So that's what we're going to concentrate on and look for. There he is right there. That fish hit that bait like 3 times before he got it. Little guy. Just a little guy right there. Alright. Just a little guy. That fish hit that bait a couple of times before he got it. It's another little solid 2.5, 3-pounder though. But still a good fish. Yeah, that's not a giant fish, but still. Key to it is just a little creek turn point here. One thing I really like these early season cold fronts, like what we're dealing with right now. In my opinion, especially the fact that we have northern strain largemouth, it really puts the fish on the move. When it's warm, we've been having a lot of warm weather here, and in my opinion, that's just really not good. It doesn't put the fish in position. When that water temperature starts to cool down, it gets in those mid-low 50s. That really puts the fish on the move. That puts them on the bank. That puts them in the position where you can catch. The water's in the 60s, upper 50s, 60s in the fall time, late fall, early winter. I've always had a harder time catching fish like that. So I'm actually glad that it cooled off. Those first cold fronts are usually really productive. So we're gonna get out here and see if we can find some of those fish. It's right there. There he is. I knew it'd be some on them rocks. Fish was down there a little deeper. I knew it had to be something around them rocks. Not a big one. He had that bait sideways, so it felt a lot bigger than he really was. Old red crawfish. Got that red crawfish all in his face. Alright, so that's it for a day of fishing today. It was a pretty productive day out there today. Post-frontal conditions. It was real cold. The water temperatures finally dipped into the 40s. But the fish can be caught this time of the year, especially if you got northern strain largemouth like what we have here in the upstate of South Carolina. The fish like to bite. I think it puts the fish in position. Rattle traps, it's a great bait if you got stained muddy water. That's what I was fishing today. I was looking for isolated boulders anywhere I could see rocks up on the bank. The lake's at winter pool, so I can see all the structure. I know exactly what it's going to look like down off of the bank. If I see rocks on the bank, that's a good indication there's going to be rocks below the surface. So I look for those little isolated boulders off of points, creek turns, depressions. That's where the fish were. So try it. Rattle traps deflect just a little differently than a lip crankbait, and sometimes that can be the key, especially in cold water. So try them. I think you're going to catch some fish on them. But now I'm out. Go get me a bite to eat. Go see the wife. Peace. See ya.